What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WrestleRant, where I, Graham Gius and Matthews, break down all the pay-per-views that I watch on the WWE Network as well as on Impact Plus. Today we're talking ECW Hardcore Heaven 1999, almost exactly, not exactly, but from 20 years ago, May of 1999. So we kick off the show with what was supposed to be the main event between the ECW World Heavyweight Champion Tazz and Chris Candido. They got it out of the way early in a 1-minute squash match. So I know if I watched this show, if I paid my hard-earned money for this show, seeing the main event go on first, and not the fact that it went on first, but that it was a glorified squash match, I'd be pissed. Now, thankfully, this was not the last time that we would see Tazz on this show, and they kind of made something out of it. I'm not sure the reason why they had Candido get squashed in a minute. Maybe that was their plan the entire time. Maybe something happened with Candido. I don't know. He did come out to the ring with Tammy Lynn Sitch, otherwise known as Sunny from WWE. So yeah, that was a 1-minute squash. Nothing special whatsoever. The Dudleys came out, attacked Tazz afterward to set forth what we would see a little later on in the night, that being the new main event, which I'll talk about at the end of this review. That set up the Dudley Boys to defend their ECW World Tag Team titles with Sign Guy Dudley and Joel Gertner in their corner against Balls Mahoney and Spike Dudley in about a 7-8 minute match. It was okay, wasn't terrible, but it wasn't anything special either. It was exactly what you would expect it to be, in other words. It was fine, but kind of turned into a total mess down the stretch. So this whole thing, the first half hour of the show, was really a fucking mess. But the Dudleys did pick up the win, successfully retaining their ECW World Tag Team titles by hitting a 3D on Balls Mahoney. With what should have been the opener was what we got next between Super Crazy and Taka Michinoku. Fantastic match here. This was after Michinoku had already been in WWE as the light heavyweight champion, which the commentators brought up here. And the guy's a great talent. I think he was a fantastic fit for ECW. But this is really what ECW should have been doing more of. The great wrestling, because they had the wrestlers. They had Super Crazy, they had Michinoku, they had Tajiri, RVD, Jerry Lynn, some of the best wrestlers in the world at this point. And they weren't really, they were having great matches, but they weren't the focus of the show. You know, like ECW at this point, they had been playing up the Extreme card for far too long. And by this point, WWE and WCW even were doing ECW better than ECW. We were seeing way too much garbage and way too much trash on these shows. And that's why WWE is part of the Attitude Era, and then WCW as well. We're getting ahead of ECW. But this was a great match. This is what should have kicked off the show. Like I said earlier, very good match here between Super Crazy and Taka Michinoku. Crazy ended up winning with a set-out powerbomb in about 8 minutes. Great stuff here, and just a really fun match. And another similar match between Little Guido with Sal E. Graziano in his corner, taking on Yoshihiro Tajiri. I think Tajiri and Super Crazy, I think I talked about them in my last pay-per-view review at Living Dangerously 1999. They had another match at Guilty as Charged earlier on in 99. I was kind of half expecting a rubber match on the show, obviously not getting it. But this was very good as well. Tajiri and Little Guido, better known to most as Nunzio from WWE, had really good chemistry. They made the most of the time they had, about 11 minutes, the longest match on the show up to this point. Great stuff here. This was a really good match. Tajiri ended up winning with a brain buster. And Tajiri, on all the shows that I've seen him on up to this point, he has had amazing showings. To the point where I'm really surprised that WWE didn't do more with him when they brought him in the early 2000s, right after the Invasion angle. He was a World Tag Team Champion, I believe, I think with William Regal. But beyond that, he really was not much more than a comedy guy. And he did the comedy great, don't get me wrong, but I think he could have been more than that based off what I've seen from him in these ECW pay-per-views. But this was a good match, though. Lance Storm up next, taking on Tommy Dreamer with Dawn Marie in Lance Storm's corner, and then Francine in Tommy Dreamer's corner. This was a really fun brawl. Not the match that I was hoping for from a guy like a Lance Storm and a Dreamer. Lance Storm kind of went down to Dreamer's level, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I was hoping for more of a wrestling match, because Dreamer, by this point, every fucking ECW pay-per-view this guy would be on, he'd have the same matches every single time. And they were entertaining brawls, but you can only see that so many times. But at least Lance Storm helped make this good. He did win by hitting a spinning heel kick off the top of a trash can. So yeah, really fun match. Again, a nice hardcore brawl. If they're going to do this type of shit, which, I mean, it's in the fucking name of the company, but if they're going to do this, at least make it tolerable like this one was. I thought it was good. The finish kind of felt flat for me for whatever reason. I don't know if it was because they beat the holy crap out of each other. Then it was a spinning heel kick that put Dreamer away. I don't know. But it was still a really good match for what it was. Not as good as the other two matches I just mentioned, between Super Crazy and Taka Michinoku, and then Tajiri and Little Guido, but it was still a pretty good match. In my opinion, the match of the night up next for the ECW World Television Championship, between Jerry Lynn, the challenger, and then Rob Van Dam, the champion, with Bill Alfonso in RVD's corner, a rematch from the Living Dangerously match. This was phenomenal. I thought this was better than even the match they had at Living Dangerously. And they got a ton of time here. Like almost a half an hour, 26, 27 minutes. RVD wins with a 5-star frog splash to retain his title once again. Jerry Lynn looking awesome in defeat. He overcame so much pain and punishment and came oh so close to winning that title, only to fall short of victory in the end. But this was awesome. I thought they told a great story here of just both guys wanting to go out there and just beat each other. I mean, I know that sounds lame, but like they just went out there with the simple goal of trying to prove their superiority over the other, and I thought it worked wonders. It was a really, really good match, and far and away the best match on this entire show. And RVD, I thought Jerry Lynn would walk out the new champion after RVD won the first time in their last Living Dangerously match, but no, RVD wins again to retain the ECW World title. I thought this was amazing stuff. Then we had Sid Vicious with his manager Judge Jeff Jones taking on Just Incredible with Jason and Jazz in Just Incredible's corner. A lot of J's there between Judge Jeff Jones, Just Incredible, Jason and Jazz, whatever. So it was supposed to be Shane Douglas taking on Just Incredible here. But I guess Shane Douglas had just left for WCW, so they put Sid Vicious in there instead, which the crowd fucking loved the guy, so it didn't really matter. Out with Sid Vicious, like I said, Judge Jeff Jones, which I'll mention in a second. So this was a glorified squash, and it was going well until Lance Storm, for whatever reason, interfered. I'm not really sure why. Maybe his next program was with Sid Vicious, I don't know. But Storm interfered. They called for the DQ, which was bizarre to me because they've had so much interference, so many hardcore elements about so many of these matches in ECW. Yet it's a simple interference spot from a guy like Lance Storm that forces the referee to call for the bell. I thought that was weird. Then it went completely downhill from there. So they call for the bell. The match is over within 2 minutes. Sabu, again, for whatever reason, comes out. He puts Sid through a table, and then Jason, the other Impact player, through a table as well. So Sabu kind of stands tall to end this thing until Sid gets back up. He's pissed. He lays out Jones here, and then he walks out, much to the delight of the crowd. So that was really dumb. A dumb finish. I mean, I can't even call it a good match because it went all of 2 minutes. And it could have been something interesting. It could have been a fun squash for Sid had they not gone down that route. And then we had the main event between Tazz and Bubba Ray Dudley for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship, a Falls Count Anywhere match. I guess it was supposed to be Devon, Bubba said, before the match in a pre-match promo, but he said he hit his head during one of the previous attacks backstage. So what happened here was this. After Tazz beat Candido at the start of the show, they then had the Dudley Boys go out on this hit list, attacking everyone backstage after Joel Gertner got attacked right after the opening match while they were defending their after they defended their ECW World Tag Team titles. So Gertner gets laid out. They see a hit list. They go down the hit list. They knock out everyone that I guess is a suspect of attacking Joel Gertner. I don't know. Everyone from, just some lamos to notable people backstage. And that leads to Taz saying, guys, enough with the bullshit. I'll see you later on tonight with me beating either one of you for my ECW World title. And that's what we got here, but it was probably not nearly as good as what Tazz and Candido could have done had they gone out there and had the regular match that was advertised originally. This was okay. Kind of felt more like a mess of a brawl than anything. But yeah, Tazz did win with a Tazz mission for the tap-out victory. Still the world champion, as I think obviously everyone expected. No one honestly thought, despite the angle they had built up going into this match over the course of the show, that Bubba was a real threat to the ECW world title. So I think because of that, that really hindered this match. It was just boring. I don't know. I didn't really enjoy it. I thought it was okay. It could have been a lot worse, but it wasn't exciting in the slightest. Had the right result, but just kind of an underwhelming way to close out the pay-per-view. So overall, it's tough to judge this show because I thought this pay-per-view had 3 really good matches between the Tajiri Little Guido match, the Super Crazy Michinoku match, and the Lance Storm. I mean, not the Lance Storm and Dreamer match was good too, but really the RVD Jerry Lynn match for the TV title. So overall, I would say this was a solid show. I've seen way worse from ECW. At least this show had some really good wrestling, but I think even by this point, by mid-1999, they were still heavily relying on these hardcore elements that had long been played out. I mean, the crowds were still kind of eating it up, but it really was a big reason what led to the demise of the company, because they weren't evolving their in-ring style. It was just more of the same, as was evident by the lame main event. But it did have some really good wrestling. If you want to watch the show, if only for one match, check out RVD and Jerry Lynn for the TV title. I thought that was fantastic stuff. And that does it, guys, for my review of ECW Hardcore Heaven 1999. Thank you for checking out the review as always. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more content. The next review should be whatever next ECW pay-per-view is in the pipeline. I don't know what it is. It's the one that took place, I think, in July of 99. I have yet to watch it, but that will be up soon with my full thoughts on that pay-per-view as well. So, at any rate, guys, have a great rest of your week, weekend, whatever it might be as you're listening to this. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.